Working the problem. Welcome to the Northern Wisconsin Resources Summit. A thank you to Superintendent Kelly for inviting me to do this keynote for your summit and the very important work that you are undertaking today. On April 13th, 1970, Apollo 13 had a malfunction caused by an explosion, some ruptured oxygen lines. Within 3 hours, loss of water, loss of electrical power, loss of propulsion of the vehicle. Things look very dire. Hey, we all remember Tom Hanks in Apollo 13. But let's talk about working the problem. So it was Flight Director Gene Kranz at Command Central who told everybody, listen, we need to work the problem. And that's important because that's what you're going to be doing today, working the problem. We need to have confidence in ourselves, confidence in our peers, the people around us, presence under pressure. We need to inventory our options. What do we have available to us? We need to make decisions and we need to figure out where to start, and then we need to start. Give me only what they have up there. Only what they have up there. That was astronaut Ken Mattingly, who was back in the training module on Earth trying to figure out how to get the astronauts back. It was very important though, because he said, don't give me anything that they don't have up there. I need to work with exactly what is in Apollo 13. So this is an issue of benchmarking. This is an issue of saying, hey, if we have another district that has a lot of resources, it's an urban district, it's a wealthy district, whatever, we can't look to that. We can't benchmark to that district. We are benchmarking to the resources that we have right here. And you're going to be surprised. You're going to have more resources than what you think, but we don't need to benchmark. We need to find what we have locally and make it work. So student mental health. We have 957 pages in the DSM book. That's the diagnosis book for mental health conditions. 957 pages. So with students, very much anxiety, depression, eating disorders, anger, stress, and many other diagnoses. You know this, right? It's in your schools. In 2015, both the Senate and the House came together with mental health in schools legislation, the Mental Health in Schools Act. It looked like it was going to pass. It would have provided funding. It would have provided staff development, education for family members. It would have expanded evidence-based practices for all 50 states. Imagine if we had that today. We don't. It didn't pass. There's nothing on the horizon. It's frustrating. But this is where we are, and we are going to work the problem. Student mental health, it's complicated. It's complicated. Who evaluates? Who qualifies for services? What's the best treatment? How do we measure progress? And what's discharge criteria? This is still very murky. Well, there isn't a national outline for this. There really isn't a state outline. It kind of comes down to the district and providers. But again, we have to work the problem. Unfortunately, suicide has continued to increase. Actually, 33% for students age 15 through 19 since 2009. In addition, we've had a spike since 2009 in opioid overdose deaths. A lot of them get classified as accidental deaths, and the numbers get a little bit fuzzy when you look at them, but the problems are real. You know the problems that present with the families and with your students. That's why you're here today, to find an inroad to that, to work the problem. I'm going to show you a slide. This is from my 2013 PBS presentation. And all of these dots, these are areas that represent binge drinking, areas that have binge drinking problems. We can obviously see Wisconsin, but looking over to Minnesota, Iowa, and Illinois. So we know that we have many issues that are happening, whether it be alcohol, drugs, other societal impacts on our students and our families. Let's talk about providers, right? providers. We hear the state say if we have more money going into mental health, into AODA, we can remedy these issues. But we have some other structural problems going on. We have a shortage of providers. Then there's high turnover. In Wisconsin, we have 148 practicing child psychiatrists. Most of those are in Dane County, Milwaukee, and Brown County. So Amy Herbst of Wisconsin Children's Hospital said it can be weeks to months to get one appointment with a mental health provider. But we're going to work the problem. Looking here at the state of Wisconsin, if we draw this line across Highway 29 and look north, we have 37 child psychiatrists serving the northern part of the state, 111 in the southern part of the state. You can see the green counties. That's where most of the providers are. Once we get above Highway 8, it's even more challenging because we have less providers. In addition to less providers, right, we just don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the type of road systems. We also have winter weather. It snows in May, right? It snows in October. Canceling appointments, all of these things come into play. And it's very far distances to travel for providers. Maybe sometimes it's over to Superior, sometimes it's to Duluth, but we're going to work the problem. Let me tell you a story. Right behind me is Portage High School here in Portage, Wisconsin. 15 years ago, Portage High School was struggling with transition services for students with disabilities. So students who would need job training skills, need community experiences, they weren't finding that they had that here. They're saying, we don't have this. This is kind of a service desert for us. We don't have it. So here's what they did. A teacher and an aide got in a vehicle, went right down this road and started to go through town, going on the different roads. The teacher was driving, the aide was writing down the names of different businesses. And then they went back and they visited. They knocked on doors and said, we're here from Portage High School. We want to talk to you. We have students with disabilities. We want to get them some community experience. Tell me about what you do, what your business, and these might be businesses that employ 2-3 people, just small businesses and big businesses. And could we set up either a job shadow or sometimes it was a paid job experience, and it developed. Suddenly it happened. This high school became a model for transition. They wrote about their transition program. They presented about their transition program. And in the bigger context, this is a very much blue-collar area. This is a high free and reduced area. It has the highest rental concentration of any district in this area. It has less than 10 homes being built per year for the last 10 years in this district. So a district that had to work the problem, and it did. So where do you get started? I'm going to give you some ideas. So one is measure your baseline. Where's your baseline? Measure change from baseline. What do you want to measure? So a few things. Maybe you're going to meet 3 times a year, okay? Meet 3 times a year. Every time you meet, you're going to have an actionable activity. I talked with Superintendent Kelly about the Community Health Needs Assessment, or the China. And I went online and I checked, and the China serving your area is the Hayward Hospital. The China is very important. It's Community Health Needs Assessment. The hospital puts together this assessment of their community, what the needs are and how they can serve that. AODA is represented. Also mental health in other areas. But what is not represented, as I went through that document, school members not participating in that process, which isn't uncommon. But districts who have participated in that process are starting to make those connections and bring those services into their district. They're not having to shoulder all of the load. 2 districts, Adams Friendship, small district, rural district in a service desert area, and also the La Crosse School District, both fought for their way for a seat at the table for the China. Some other things that you could do. Have students write out their goals and family write out their goals. This sounds kind of easy, right, or oversimplified, but we know if we write our goals, we're 50% more likely to actually do those things. How many times do you actually ask a student what a goal is and to have them describe it? They probably can't, right? A few other things. Student focus groups. Instead of surveys, instead of surveying people, sit down with people and ask them, What services do you need around here? What are the strengths of what we have around here? If someone was to move here, what would you tell them about our community? Why would you want them to be here in the community? These types of discussions. Stop with the surveys, okay? Something else. Consider some student mentor groups and peer-to-peer mentor groups, faculty to faculty mentoring. This is very powerful. Also, induction process. What do we do when we have people, students and staff moving into our district? How do we acclimate them about how we do things around here and the services? AODA hotline information. Hey, maybe we want to print it on the back of our sports roster sheets that we hand out for our games. We want to get this more known to people. And things like FAST, family and schools together. All of these are just some areas. But if you do one actionable activity every time you meet, you've done 3 super important things a year. If you carry that on to the next year, you got 6, and then you got 9, and you start making change. You start working the problem. Right behind me, they work the problem. To this day, this is still a phenomenal transition program. And it all started, it all turned around when a teacher and an aide drove down that street and worked the problem. Thank you.